Kino is a beautiful and cheerful girl whose life revolves around one thing: her love for idols. Among them all, her heart belongs completely to Tamon, the main member of the boy band, Face. To her, he isn't just handsome or talented, he's a godlike presence meant to shine from far away. But when fate brings her into his personal life, the distance between idol and fan starts to disappear, and her world begins to change. The show starts with Kino sitting in front of the TV, completely glued to the screen as her favorite boy band, Face, appears. She admits that every member is good-looking, but for her, no one compares to Tamon. The moment his part starts, she loses it, fangirling hard over what she calls his unreal, god-tier visuals. Meanwhile, her parents don't really mind her obsession, even if her siblings roll their eyes at her antics. Still, Kino feels lucky no one stops her from loving Tamon openly. Later, back in her room, she carefully fixes his acrylic stand and looks proudly at the small shrine she's built over time, packed with merch and collectibles. Joking to herself, she says someone that handsome should be arrested. She even replays his old audition video, smiling as she remembers how pure and earnest he used to be back then. But soon, her peaceful fangirl moment is interrupted. A notification suddenly pops up. The concert ticket lottery results are out. She screams, jumps onto her bed, then forces herself to calm down. Pacing around the room, she tells herself she'll be fine no matter what. Still, when she finally opens the message and realizes she won, she lets out another scream, this time even louder. The next day, she gets a call from her part-time job. One of her coworkers is sick, and they ask if she can cover the shift. She happily agrees, knowing she needs the money to keep supporting Face. However, when she checks the job order sheet, something catches her eye. The client's name is Tamon. For a moment, her imagination goes wild, wondering if it could really be that Tamon. She quickly shakes it off, convincing herself it's impossible. When she arrives at the apartment building, her doubts seem confirmed. The place is old and run down, and she thinks there's no way an idol like Tamon would live here. But once she opens the door, she's shocked. The apartment is a complete mess, and sitting in the corner is a man who looks exhausted, unwashed, and completely drained. After blinking a few times, it hits her this really is Tamon. Trying to stay professional, she pretends not to recognize him as an idol and says she'll start cleaning. Tamon quietly tells her to do whatever she wants. Still shaken, she moves to another room, wondering if he might secretly be an introvert. When she goes back to ask for cleaning supplies, she overhears him muttering to himself. He talks about being exposed online, his career being ruined, and even imagines being stabbed in some dark alley and left to die. Kino freezes, stunned, wondering if this broken man is truly the Tamon she worships. As she cleans, her thoughts drift to the upcoming concert. She starts worrying that he might quit entirely before it even happens. When Tamon enters the room again, she suddenly decides she can't let that happen. Gathering her courage, she tells him she's been a fan for a long time and that she's genuinely grateful he was born. Instead of being happy, Tamon apologizes. He says he feels awful that she devoted herself to someone as fake as him. That's when Kino snaps. Thinking of all the other fans, she marches right up to him and tells him not to look down on their love. She loudly and proudly declares her devotion, even calling him a god, going on about how amazing he is and comparing him to the Holy Trinity itself. Eventually, things calm down, and she goes back to cleaning. She admits she's surprised by how different he is at home. Tamon explains that his onstage personality was chosen by the agency and that he's just copying someone he admires so he can make people smile. Kino realizes it's the same thing he said during his audition. He then adds that in his normal state, he doesn't think he can make anyone happy at all. Her eyes wander to a shelf filled with vocal training books. She tells him that even if he's gloomy, he isn't an imposter. For a moment, Tamon almost believes her until he remembers the strict pressure from the people around him. He shrinks back again, saying that the criticism from his sudden fame made him stop believing in his fans and himself. He even talks about running away to a deserted island. Panicking, Kino promises she'll keep cheering him on until he learns to believe again, even giving this version of him a nickname, Gloomy Tam. The next day, she plays an old video of Face. Tamon is lively, energetic, and confidently introducing himself while pulling everyone in with his charm. Comparing that version of him to the man standing in front of her now, it's almost hard to believe they're the same person. Later, she decides to cook him a proper meal. She mentions that last time she cleaned, all she saw were instant noodles. Tamon apologizes for spending his money recklessly. Kino says she isn't mad, just shocked that he can perform on such a terrible diet. Declaring that he needs real food, she insists on cooking for him. When the chicken is ready, she offers him a piece. Tamon stares at it, his mind spiraling as he imagines it might be poisoned, and that she wants him dead. But then he looks at Kino and sees how serious she is about making him eat. Not wanting to face her wrath, he shoves the whole piece into his mouth at once. Almost instantly, something changes. Confidence floods through him, awakened by the taste of a real, home-cooked meal. Kino notices the shift, and before she can react, Tamon suddenly climbs on top of her, whispering in a low voice and asking if he can lick it up. Her imagination explodes, and she feels like her soul has left her body and ascended straight to heaven. But just as suddenly, Tamon snaps back to his gloomy self. He steps away and explains that he's been overworking himself, and because of that, his personality switch has become unstable. But just as things seem to settle, Tamon suddenly collapses right in front of her. Later, as Kino watches fans online cheering Tamon and talking about how hard he's trying to meet everyone's expectations, she feels a strong urge to support him in her own way. So, she decides to make him tuna rolls, hoping a simple meal might help more than words ever could. That night at dinner, Tamon doesn't argue, much surprisingly. He eats everything she makes. Meanwhile, the next day, an interview featuring Tamon airs on TV while Kino is cleaning. The host comments that he seems brighter than usual, and Tamon admits that he recently had a really good dinner. He even adds that eating properly helps him perform better. As Kino listens, she realizes he's talking about her cooking. Tamon blushes on screen, and she can't help but smile. On another day, while Kino is cleaning his bedroom, Tamon approaches her hesitantly. His manager told him to post casual selfies at home, but every picture looks gloomy and unappealing to him. Remembering how Tamon always reacts when fans cheer for him during events, Kino gets an idea. She decides to try acting like one of those cheering fans. Almost instantly, the switch flips. Tamon's charm comes rushing back, and his idol persona shines through. Watching this up close makes Kino's heart swell. For just a second, she thinks about how she could take advantage of this moment, but she immediately snaps herself out of it, reminding herself not to be selfish. Afterward, Tamon slips back into his gloomy mode, but he sincerely thanks her. He admits that every time he takes selfies, he feels so uncomfortable he wants to throw up. Kino is confused and tells him he looks great. Tamon tries to explain it's not about his appearance, but she cuts him off, insisting that selfies are all about looks. She promises she'll check the photos the moment they're posted. Tamon is confused after all. She already watched him take them. Kino simply explains that she'll never get tired of looking at him. With complete confidence, she tells him she truly believes he's the best. Tamon turns away, hiding a small smile. Before leaving, Kino reminds him to eat his dinner. Just as she reaches the door, Tamon calls out to her and says that in his current state, he feels confident he can perform at the concert. Thanks to her, he no longer feels like complete trash, just old trash, which he considers an improvement. Kino tries to brush it off, saying she was just doing her job. But Tamon gently disagrees. He says she deserves to hear his gratitude. He admits that people thank him all the time after performances, and every time, it genuinely makes him happy. Suddenly, tears well up in Kino's eyes. Tamon panics, thinking he said something wrong. She quickly reassures him, explaining that she's happy because his thanks came from both Tamon and his gloomy side. Tamon finally smiles and thanks her again, saying he's fine now because of her constant scolding. Then Kino drops her bag. Her heart starts racing at the sight of his nervous smile. Tamon misunderstands, assuming she dropped it because she was disgusted by him, and he quickly tries to hide his expression. Without thinking, Kino tackles him, insisting that hiding such a sincere and beautiful smile is a waste. They fall to the ground, and she admits she loves his clumsy smile. Unfortunately, that's when one of Tamon's managers walks in. Both of them are scolded, especially Tamon, for not maintaining his idol image. Kino quickly flees the apartment, her emotions in complete chaos. She realizes she's grown attached to Tamon's gloomy side, and as a fan, she feels like she crossed a line she never should have. The next morning, shocking news breaks. Reports say a crazed fan broke into an idol's home just to hug him. At school, Kino's friends gossip about it, calling the fan pathetic. Knowing they're talking about her, Kino stiffly agrees and lets the conversation shift to Tamon's newest photo shoot. While the images cheer her up, she also finds herself remembering what Tamon is like at home. She desperately tries to push those thoughts away but ends up kneeling on the floor in defeat. When she checks her phone, Tamon's image fills the screen. She realizes that if she saw him again, she might lose control all over again. Meanwhile, later that afternoon, Tamon waits eagerly for Kino to arrive for her cleaning shift. When the doorbell rings, he rushes to open it only to find Tota, his former housekeeper. Disappointed, he hides it. At the same time, Kino is at home, missing Tamon deeply. She decides that from now on, she'll return to being just a normal fan. Finally, the day of the concert arrives. Face takes the stage, striking their signature pose as the crowd erupts. After part of the show, they pause to properly greet the audience, thanking everyone for making the concert possible. Each member takes their turn, acknowledging the fans. Kino stands in the crowd, gripping her light sticks tightly. She truly believes Face is the idol group of this era, and she's proud to support them. The lights dim, and a spotlight hits the stage as the next song begins. Taemin opens the verse, his voice instantly drawing cheers. The other members follow perfectly, and at the climax, they rise on separate platforms across the stadium. Kino's heart swells. She's happy to be part of this moment, but she also feels the ache of no longer being close to Taemin. She shouts how cool he is, and somehow, Taemin hears her. He scans the crowd and spots her sign. After the concert, just as Kino is about to leave, she's suddenly pulled into a private area. Taemin stands in front of her, visibly upset. He tells her he noticed her crying during the show. Kino urges him to leave her alone, reminding him that other fans deserve his attention and that she can't be selfish. But Taemin refuses. He tells her he can't live without her support anymore and that he wants her by his side. He buries his face into her shoulder, and Kino finds herself accepting his words. Relieved, Taemin soon slips back into his nervous self before running off to greet the fans. From a distance, Kino cheers him on one last time before quietly slipping away herself, hiding from view. That night, Kino finds herself wrapped up in a dream that feels far too real. In it, Taemin is right there with her, confident, smooth, and effortlessly charming. He flirts with her like it's second nature, closing the distance between them until she's just about to lose herself in the moment. But just as she starts to enjoy the warmth and closeness, reality pulls her back. She wakes up alone in her bedroom. For a brief moment, disappointment settles in her chest. It had only been a fantasy, after all. Still, her gloomy mood doesn't last long. As she sits up, her eyes land on something precious beside her, her ticket for Taemin's Handshake event. The sight of it instantly lifts her spirits. Clutching it in her hand, she smiles, feeling like she's already gotten her money's worth just by being able to attend. That thought alone gives her new motivation. She promises herself she'll work even harder from now on, earn more money, and spend more supporting Face. With that determination in her heart, Kino happily makes her way toward Taemin's apartment. However, the moment she arrives, the atmosphere is nothing like she expected. Inside, she's greeted by a tense scene. Taemin is standing there, openly announcing that he wants to quit. Meanwhile, his manager, Wataru, shuts him down immediately, refusing to even consider it. He bluntly reminds Taemin of how much money the company has already invested in him. The argument ends abruptly when Wataru steps aside to answer a phone call, clearly uninterested in continuing the discussion. Taemin, completely overwhelmed, collapses onto the floor. Left alone with him, Kino hesitates before asking if she heard everything correctly. Taemin doesn't deny it. Instead, he lets out a miserable whine and starts complaining about the upcoming Handshake event. Just the idea of interacting with people makes his stomach churn. He admits that he feels so nervous he could throw up. Kino crouches down beside him and speaks gently, trying to calm him. She tells him that the event isn't something to fear. It's a chance to see his fans' smiles up close. But Taemin isn't convinced. He's certain he'll mess everything up. In his mind, he imagines sweaty palms, awkward movements, and disappointed fans who might find him gross or fake. That's when Kino finally snaps. She scolds him sharply, forcing him to look at her. She tells him that his fans truly admire him, that standing close to him is considered a blessing, not a burden. Taemin trembles under her gaze. Completely shaken, he apologizes. Just as quickly as she got angry, Kino softens. She tells him that while his bold, hot side is undeniably attractive, his gloomy side has its own charm too. That quiet reassurance finally reaches him. After taking a moment to calm down, Taemin agrees to go through with the Handshake event, not for the company, but for his fans. Moved by his resolve, Kino reveals something she's been keeping secret. She lays out the notes she's been collecting for the past 2 years, pages and pages of observations, habits, expressions, and details about him. The sheer volume of information is overwhelming. She explains that if he studies his persona carefully, he might be able to maintain it longer without exhausting himself. As Taemin flips through the notes, he's stunned. There are things written there that he doesn't even remember about himself. Still, he can't deny her logic. In the end, he agrees. Kino smiles, satisfied that her plan is working. Suddenly, Taemin suggests they practice. He asks her to pretend she's a fan attending the Handshake event. Kino immediately shuffles away, clearly flustered. Unfortunately, Taemin misreads her reaction. He assumes she simply doesn't want to waste her time on him. Hearing that, Kino panics and blurts out that she'd be willing to sacrifice her life for him if it meant supporting him. That declaration triggers something dangerous. Taman's hot persona takes over. He pulls her close without warning, sending Kino into full system overload. She practically combusts and collapses into a corner. Almost instantly, gloomy Hera resurfaces, horrified by what he's done. He rushes to her side, insisting they stop. He doesn't want to hurt her anymore. Once she recovers, Kino admits something important. Helping Taman genuinely makes her happy. She confesses that during a difficult period in her life, listening to his voice was what kept her going. Reassured that she's okay, Taman decides to try again. But as they continue practicing, Kino keeps short-circuiting. He gets closer, acts more charming, and pushes the persona further, so far that he even picks her up and jokingly proposes to her. Kino can tell immediately that he's overdoing it. And, just as expected, Taman suddenly vomits. The hot Taman persona disappears, leaving gloomy Hera behind once more. Sitting down with a cup of tea, he asks Kino to properly evaluate him during the actual handshake event. His determined yet nervous expression makes her fall for him even harder. Soon, the day of the event arrives. Kino waits in line, her heart racing. She's impressed by the huge turnout and relieved to see that Taman seems to be handling everything well. From where she stands, she hears fans leaving with satisfied smiles, chatting excitedly about their experience. Listening to them, Kino reminds herself that Taman belongs to all his fans. She has no right to feel jealous. But then, trouble starts. Two fans in front of her begin arguing. Their voices rise, and the tension escalates quickly. Kino worries Taman might hear them. Unable to stay silent, she steps in and demands they leave, saying Taman doesn't deserve to hear something so ugly. Unfortunately, security notices the disturbance. They kick everyone involved out, including Kino. Only then does it sink in. She won't get to enjoy the event at all. On the train ride home, the pain deepens. All around her, people excitedly talk about how amazing the fan meeting was. Each conversation stings, especially knowing how much money she spent. When she finally reaches her stop, she steels herself and decides to work harder to earn it all back. Later, at her cleaning job base, she's told she has a visitor. When she looks up, she's stunned to see Taman waiting for her, annoyance written all over his face. He demands to know why she didn't show up at the event. Caught off guard, Kino lies and says she lost her ticket. Taman steps closer and takes both of her hands. He promises to grant her one wish. After hesitating, Kino admits she wants just one moment where Taman is only hers. He refuses. Slipping into gloomy Hera, he tearfully explains that he doesn't want just one moment. He wants to be praised by her again and again. He admits that her absence at the event broke his heart. Hearing that, Kino's heart races. Even though this isn't his hot persona, she finds this side of him unbearably adorable. The next day at school, her friends talk excitedly about the successful fan meeting. Riko voices concern about paparazzi possibly exposing idols with female fans someday. Half-jokingly, they say they'd get rid of the girl if that happened. Kino is forced to agree, promising to eliminate toxic fans who feel entitled to Taman. Later, she visits Taman again and finds him visibly upset. He reveals that he's been invited to a big TV show where idols appear in casual clothes. While Kino is excited, Taman is terrified. He admits the clothes he's wearing now are basically all he owns. She suggests they go shopping. At the mall, Taman shows up in his usual hoodie, hiding his face with a paper bag. Though slightly disappointed, Kino leads him inside and confidently picks out clothes based on years of observation. When she checks on him, Taman smiles at her, causing her to faint on the spot, only to be caught by Taman. Eventually, they finish shopping and relax at the food court. Taman quietly admits he envies ordinary high schoolers living normal lives. Kino reassures him that it's okay to want something simple. Suddenly, her friends appear. Panicking, they pretend to be old friends, but her friend suspects he's her boyfriend. Taman grabs Kino's hand, and they run. Once they're finally far enough away, Kino immediately apologizes for dragging Taman into such a dangerous situation. She blames herself for suggesting an outing in the first place. Meanwhile, Taman insists that it was actually his fault, but before she can spiral any further, he stops her by showing a rare, serious expression. That alone catches her off guard. Then, in a quiet and honest moment, he admits that today genuinely made him happy. That simple confession hits her like a sudden gust of wind, leaving her completely shaken. Soon after, the TV guest appearance wraps up as a huge success, with fans flooding social media and calling Taman's look boyfriend material. But things take a different turn on another visit. Kino arrives to find Taman completely burned out, sprawled on the floor in total exhaustion. Deciding this mental state is unacceptable, she immediately gets to work, cleaning him up and helping him look presentable again. Once he recovers a bit, Taemin sheepishly admits that he tried cooking for himself. He attempted to make egg rolls, but the result barely resembles food. Kino calmly reassures him, reminding him that everyone starts out bad at cooking. However, Taemin suddenly declares that he'll quit all his activities until he can successfully make an egg roll. Panicking, Kano blurts out that there's something else he's already good at, making his fans smile. Somehow, that alone lifts his spirits, and Taemin agrees to keep working, much to the amusement of his fans. Watching from the side, Wataru admits that Kino has a special talent for calming Taemin down. She serves him tea as he praises her influence, noting that Taemin has been working harder than ever lately. But when Kino glances over, she notices Taemin watching them uneasily, as if he struggles to fully trust people. Then, without warning, Wataru asks what kind of services Kino's job actually includes. She explains that they handle anything a client needs, from shopping to walking pets. That's when Wataru realizes she was the one who helped Taemin pick out clothes and prepare for the Handshake event. A chill runs down her spine, and she immediately drops to the floor to apologize. Taemin follows too, insisting the blame should be on him instead. To their surprise, Wataru bows deeply to Kino and announces that he'll officially place Taemin under her care. He explains that the agency is small and understaffed, leaving them unable to properly look after their idols. With a tired smile, he says he'll take care of the gorilla, while Kino will handle Taemin, the zombie. Once they're alone, the weight of that responsibility finally sinks in. Kino realizes that everything she does with Taemin from now on is part of her job, and her imagination immediately runs wild before she forces herself back to reality. She reminds herself that her role is to support him so he can continue being an idol. Reflecting on everything, she realizes that Taemin came to Tokyo alone, chasing his dream. Even though he achieved fame, the agency can barely give him the care he needs. It suddenly makes sense why he's grown attached to her. She's both a fan and someone who genuinely looks after him. As she cleans the room, her phone buzzes, and she lets out a small shout when she sees that Taemin's new selfies have been released. He smiles at her reaction and casually admits that he finds her interesting, stepping closer to tell her that she's special to him. Later that night, back at home, Kino tries to convince herself that he didn't mean anything by it. After all, Taemin flirts with fans all the time. She remembers how lonely she used to be, how she wasn't well-liked back then. But discovering Taemin, becoming his fan, and supporting face helped her make friends and become happier. Watching him on TV, she decides she's fine with not being special. But then her eyes fall on the necklace she chose for him, and suddenly, Taemin's words echo in her mind again. That marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.